And we are live here from Redline Radio, Pearl Road, Cleveland, Ohio, for the We Like Sportz Podcast. I am Riggs, here with Peyton and a friend of ours, a guest, and hopefully a long-time member of this panel. Austin's in the motherfucking house. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here. Happy to talk some sports, talk some other shenanigans, and let's get this thing rolling.
Alrighty. Yeah. So, obviously, Austin, this is the first time that you are with us. Thankfully, it took the COVID to get you in here finally. But I mean, when you're sitting at home and you're on your ass, just like all of us, what better way to kill some time than listen to some sports for the next 2 hours? So, Austin, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself, a little bit of background, sports background. Obviously, the people at home can see that you have a C on your hat, meaning that you are a fan of cock.
Oh, absolutely not. I am a big fan of the Cleveland Indians. As you can see, I got the C also on my left shoulder.
Nice.
I also got the state of Ohio on my right. That's Browns colors, kind of faded, crappy tattoo, but it's all good. A little bit about myself. I former high school and college baseball player. Currently a professional wrestler. And diehard Cleveland sports fan and sports in general. So excited to get this thing going and let's have some fun.
All right, here we go. So obviously coming up in today's show, before we get into that, why don't we end up going on to the social media really quick, though, because I will end up forgetting about this. Definitely check us out on Twitter and Instagram, which is at We Like Sportz PC. We will be having a new logo on the way. As you could tell with Riggs' shirt, that is an old shirt. We will end up having new merchandise soon. Austin,
really
with
soon.
your face on it as well. And Keith, Keith isn't with us right now. As he just said, hold the fort down for me as I have to fight this bitch. Keith, we miss you. Obviously, you couldn't make it because of other problems. Your son's doing fine compared to last week when you ended up missing for that reason. But obviously, this is, I guess, from at least a personal perspective, it looks like it could be a little bit better. Hopefully that ends up being solved. But as mentioned, our Twitter and Instagram, our Facebook page is We Like Sportz Podcast. Also, subscribe to our YouTube page as well. The YouTube page being We Like Sportz Podcast. And then also the replays of the show being Thursday morning at 9 a.m. on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, and Anchor.fm. So I guess as we get things started, we'll talk some NBA. Oh, and one of those things I was going to end up forgetting, and that was that the guest that we have coming up, we have two guests coming up in today's show. We have Dan Justik, that is a co-expert at Dawg Pound Daily, which is the fan-sided Cleveland Browns branch. I know that they don't have like specific websites. They have or they don't have specific groupings. They have like specific websites that they work for through fan-sided. And also Tommy Carosielli. I feel like I could have possibly butchered that name, but he is the Solon JV baseball head coach, or one of the coaches. We'll end up clarifying that a little bit later on. But we have definitely a little bit of perspectives from the Browns and also with high school sports, obviously, with kids missing out on whatever time frame of pretty much of their baseball and high school sports careers. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. But as mentioned, we will jump into the NBA. So first and foremost, Enes Kanter ended up having a little bit of a light of the situation that Michael Jordan's flu game just seems irresponsible now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, in these day and ages and these sensitive times and this epidemic we're going through, that's funny that you say that. Yeah.
It was something out of the blue. It actually made me laugh. I mean, looking back at it, if Michael Jordan ended up having, let's say, the coronavirus, I still feel like he'd end up playing through this.
Yeah, he probably would, but at the same time, like, are you talking about Michael Jordan in 1998, or if he was playing in today's age?
Well, if it was today's age, it's not happening.
I mean, we always hear about how, old school basketball was a tougher, different style game. I'm sure they would have played right through this.
Shorts were a lot shorter, too.
That they were. Got to show them legs.
Man. But, yeah, definitely tougher times back then, too. They were a lot tougher. I mean, you don't have people like LeBron that were soft and flopping around all the time like a fish. But I mean, if there could be anybody presently that was playing, I mean, obviously you had Rudy Gobert, you had Donovan Mitchell, all of that had tested positive for the virus. I guess they kind of were willing to play through it because they didn't really know that they had it. But if there's a modern day basketball player that could have possibly played through this virus, who do you believe would have been that guy?
A modern day basketball player to play through the virus today?
Yeah, like let's say the coronavirus, and like they were able to play through it completely.
Kobe fucking Bryant.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Austin, what are you thinking?
I'll tell you what. This is going to be a weird pick, but I know he's been kind of like an Iron Man. I'd say Tristan Thompson. He had a very nice streak where he'd play every single game.
He would miss no days off.
He had no days off. And
with or without the Kardashian.
Yeah, he still powered through even with them.
Tyler ended up saying that Kobe would have dunked on the virus like an alien in Space Jam.
He would have.
Oh, man. But, like, it's just, like, imagine Kobe. Tristan Thompson's even another one, too. Does that come with or without the Kardashian?
I think he played his best games without the Kardashians.
I almost made a terrible joke about Lamar Odom, but I decided just to skip over it. But, like, I guess for me, what I would say, I mean, I think a present, like, what would happen in this present day, I feel like Jordan would do it again. I don't know about, like, this day and age, but if, like you were saying, Riggs, back with the 1990 era, I feel like he would end up playing through it if it was that type of person. If it was him now, there's no way that he played through it because, I mean, he's 50, 60 years old.
Yeah.
If we're talking present day, I could still see Kobe, if he obviously was still around, that he would play through it. I could see Tristan Thompson. Kind of for me, I feel like LeBron would be afraid to play. So I kind of want to say LeBron, but at the same time, I can't.
That was one of my first suggestions was LeBron. I was like him, but let me go with someone that I don't know personally, but an athlete that we seen have ice through their veins in any cold-blooded situation.
I could see somebody like, I want to say Dirk, kind of. Like, I could see Dirk Nowitzki ended up playing through it, and like he'd still be a huge beast, being a power forward, shooting some threes. And I feel like he wouldn't even tell either. But anyways, also on the front of some basketball, Giannis ended up posting on Twitter, or on Instagram as I saw it on Twitter, a picture of him in a New York Knicks jersey with the caption of "One Day."
I'll tell you what, this stuff drives me absolutely nuts. I mean, we had to deal with it here in Cleveland with LeBron. All those years teasing the fact that he was going to go to New York or something like that.
Yeah,
I ended up choosing Miami, but I mean, how many years did we sit here and it was like LeBron's going to be a Knick one day? And then the same thing with Kyrie. He wants to go home. He wants to go back, to New York, and it's just one of those things that's just don't troll your own fans, especially when you're still playing in that city. That just drives me absolutely insane.
It's rude. It's ignorant. It's like. When you're a free agent, I believe, yeah, you can get that off all day. But if you're still under contract to that team, in a way, I don't want to say that's tampering, but that's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like it would be tampering, though, in a way. Like, I mean, even if he wasn't on the radar for the Knicks, I'm pretty sure now that he ended up saying that, like, oh, hey, like, I'm actually one day going to play for the Knicks. I'm going to end up trying to communicate in some type of way. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, tampering happens. Lonzo Ball and LeBron talking when he was with the Cavs still. You're telling me when they ended up talking that they didn't say anything about the Lakers, or LeBron telling Lonzo that I'm going to ship your ass out of here? Like, it happens. And Giannis is signed. He's a free agent. This next year is his last year under contract. And then at the age of 26 in 2021, he will be an unrestricted free agent, which means he could go wherever he wants. He could go with the Knicks, and the Knicks aren't that good.
No, they're not, and it just doesn't make sense to me because right now the team he's on, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, I believe. They're one of the top teams in the league this year before everything happened, and it just doesn't make sense that you're gonna almost mess with the morale of the team, even for next year, knowing you got a shot to make a run for an NBA Finals spot. And
maybe even this year if the season continues.
If it does, not looking good, but.
It seems like the New York Knicks franchise is like a sinking ship. I see on the 4-letter network that they get all the they get all the underbelly jokes about how bad they are, like how we used to get it being Cleveland sports teams. So I feel like New York, because we've been there. It's a big city. It has a hell of a lot to offer. City that never sleeps, and it's like we're one of the biggest fucking markets in the United States. Why do we have the worst team in the world? And like we're talking about on the way up here, I believe it starts with ownership.
Oh, absolutely. Dolan has no idea what he's doing running a franchise that prominent and that important to the NBA. I mean, look at it. The Knicks is such an important franchise because of the market that they have. I mean, that's why there's all those rumors about them fixing the NBA draft so they can get Patrick Ewing back in the day.
Yeah, I seen that documentary.
It's so important for the Knicks. It's so important for the NBA for the Knicks to be successful. Mm-hmm. But it all starts at the top, and when your ownership is not doing the right things, it's hard to bring in the players that want to stay.
And I mean, you have to also remember too. Last year around this time, there was talks of Kevin Durant going to the Knicks, Kyrie Irving going to the Knicks. They ended up going to Brooklyn, but like all these players ended up like having that possibility. I mean, Paul George was one of them. Like you name it, everybody wanted to go to New York, and they ended up going it. Like I mean, I feel like the Knicks ended up like suffering in from their own hype. And everybody else saying, well, I want to be a Knick. Austin, I want to be a Knick. You want to be a Knick. Riggs, you want to be a Knick.
I would.
So
if I was a basketball player, I would play for the Knicks.
Yeah, you're playing in the most
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
But like everybody wanted to be a Knick, and they realized that they had better opportunities. But I still feel that in the end, I feel like if Zion would have been drafted to the Knicks, I feel like that could have changed the landscape of the NBA. I don't feel like RJ Barrett was that leading piece, and that changed everything. And I'm also looking at the 2020 mock draft here, and it's so weird to see that, like, obviously without the NBA lottery, your number 1 and number 2 are the two people that are on the TV here in the 2018 or 2017, 2016.
2016. Come
That's
on,
what I
Peyton,
thought.
what are you thinking?
I can't see the year.
You don't remember the year the Cavs won the championship?
I can tell just by watching this series. Like I'm starting to like get a little nervous. I'm just clenching my fist. Like we could have lost this fucking game right here,
and we were done.
We would have been done right here. Like this was the worst summer of my life because of personal reasons. After the Cavs won the finals, I lost my mother 3 days after that. But it just, I don't know. This is just something I'm going to remember, and everyone in the city for the rest of their lives.
And like, it's just wild too. And like, also into my defense too, the Cavs and Golden State ended up playing how many years in a row? 2015? No, 2014.
4 or 5 years.
4 years in a row.
5 years in a row. 4 years in a row.
I thought we were going to be the Celtics Lakers.
We could have been if some
they
asshole
didn't get Kevin
leave.
fucking Durant. If they didn't get Kevin
somebody
Durant,
left.
Draymond Green said it himself. If we didn't get Kevin Durant, he said it should have been 2 championships, Golden State, 2 for Cleveland. Yep. And I honestly fucking believe that.
I mean, I'm thankful that Dan Gilbert was willing to spend the money, but I think the NBA definitely needs to get rid of the whole pay the extra taxes to get a higher salary, because then it's just like baseball. I mean, baseball, it's the unlimited salary cap. It doesn't do anything good for the games, and it doesn't do anything good for the markets of teams that don't have the money to spend. And I mean, the NFL is the only one doing it right, in my opinion.
Exactly, and then to pretty much go on with your point too. Like, you have these guys that were playing how many years in a row? They had an injury-plagued season this past year, and now you're looking at a 1 and 2 first and second overall draft pick in the draft.
Literally 2 years after they were playing in the finals, 4 years in a row.
Listen to this, and also look at both of them teams right now. They're both the worst teams in the NBA, both teams. It's weird how that works, because Golden State is going to be really good moving forward with a top 5 draft pick, and they have Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and
they still have Steph Curry
and
too.
Steph. So you got 4 guys. So you're going to obviously get a big guy. Somebody said that they were in talks of signing, well, not talks, but trying to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. If they get him, then it's over with for the West again. Like, they need NBA.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about that a while back with that possibility of that, like, because he ended up teasing that too. Shocker, but like all the time, like, and if you look at these guys that are like the top 4 draft picks, I feel like are the only ones that I'm actually familiar with. But like Anthony Edwards is projected to be the number 1. Obi Toppin from Dayton is supposed to go to the Cavs. James Wiseman to Minnesota. He's the one that ended up getting pretty much ineligible half the season, and then LaMelo Ball at 4. After that, I can't tell you who's who. I'm familiar with the first 4, but after that, I mean, it's crazy to see.
I mean, it's also hard for us, normal fans who don't dig too deep into the college basketball season, because we missed out on March Madness this year.
Right,
and
exactly.
That's where you learn everybody.
Yep.
Is in that 3-4 week span, you learn about everybody that you're hoping,
goes to the league.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And imagine
that's where we learned about John Morant.
And that's how I learned about
that's where Colin Sexton made his name at.
Yep.
And Karl Anthony Towns and stuff like that. Like I
actually saw him live because actually at the time I was covering the MAC tournament that year in 2016. I want to say, was it 2016 or 2015? One of the two. But I ended up covering the MAC tournament, and then they were like, well, you were doing this. Do you want to come back for the NCAA tournament? And that was when it was West Virginia, Notre Dame, Kentucky, and I'm trying to think of the other one. But those like the 4 teams that were in that bracket for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. And I got to see Karl Anthony Towns in person. I got to see all these guys. I got to see Notre Dame, the big, tall, lanky dude that I can't even remember his name because he wasn't relevant, but he looked good in person. Like, it's just all these people are just, it's just crazy to see. And, like, how many of those players end up relying on March Madness to actually prove themselves that they're not able to do? Like, that's pretty much their tune-up game to go into the NBA and prove themselves to be a top 10 draft pick.
And I have a feeling this draft is going to be, it's already so unpredictable, but B, you're going to have a lot of draft busts.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
everybody's going to
100%.
be not proper scouting. And
I feel bad for the Rutgers basketball team because I remember their coach saying, we haven't been in the playoffs since 91. We finally get into the big dance, and we can't play in front of our fans.
What about even more so to go off that pretty much that topic with a team that isn't really relevant in a college that isn't usually relevant, but the Dayton Flyers. They were somebody that was having a fantastic season. They were 29-2, ranked 3 in the AP and in the coaches poll. Could have actually made a good run in the March Madness tournament, and they just fell off the face of the earth. Like, because every other team did too, and they had a third-year head coach. I mean,
and that's another thing is that kid from Dayton that's supposed to
Obi Toppin.
Yeah. I mean, he played against the subpar college, division, and never got to face any real talent like he would have in the March Madness tournament.
Now, do you think that's gonna bump his draft stock?
It's going to definitely help his draft stock, I think, because he none of his flaws were.
What I said is stump his draft stock.
I don't think it's going to stump it. I think it actually helps it, but it's also a greater chance that he could be a bust because you never got to see him actually play, against some of the top talent in the nation, in the tournament.
I mean, you only, like you said, you only got to see people that were within the Atlantic 10 conference pretty much. That was a good chunk of games. And, like, when you break it down to see all these people that are actually playing in this conference, you have schools such as Davidson, Dayton, Fordham, George Mason, George Washington, LaSalle, University of Massachusetts, University of Rhode Island, University of Richmond, St. Joseph, St. Louis, Virginia Commonwealth, VCU. That's the only one that's actually, like, notable out of all of it. Like, all those teams, VCU's the only, like, notable one out of all of them. Like, it's absolutely crazy because, like, that could have even not only could it have helped out his, like, draft stock drastically, but also the fact that he could be a number 1 draft pick if he ended up playing teams in the Sweet 16 if they made it that far, or even if they advanced to the round of 32. Like, he could have been playing teams such as, like, your Kentuckys, your Kansases,
your Dukes.
Yeah, your top 10 like usual teams, like your Notre Dames, like you name it. He could have played against them. That could have been somebody that was worth proving, but at the end of the day, it's not. Like, it's such a drastic change too, and obviously this wasn't a topic we planned on going with and talking about. Like, it just worked out that way though, because when you actually look at it to see what that virus does to, like, college athletes, I know that they have, like, that extra year of eligibility, But also at the same time, if you're Obi Toppin, why would you want to go back to school? Because right now you're at your peak. This could be your peak, not only from collegiate, but also this could be it. Like, you could end up getting drafted, and this is it. Like, you might end up being a bust. You might be an Anthony Bennett type player, because also looking at the college that you're playing for, it's Dayton. You tell me how many people are actually notable basketball players from Dayton.
Didn't Norris Cole go to Dayton?
He was CSU.
CSU.
Yeah,
he's from Dayton. Okay. Then I have no legs to stand on in this one.
There's the only one that's actually worth mentioning that has, the only reason why he's a notable player is because of his brother, because he hasn't proven himself, is Giannis's brother, Kostas. That's it. And he ended up playing back in 2018, so that was 2 years ago. All these other guys just look like they're role players at a quick glimpse, like Chris Johnson. He played for the Grizzlies, the Celtics, the 76ers, the Bucks, the Jazz. Sounds like your everyday journeyman basketball player.
And the only guy I can really think of that came from that Atlantic division is Steph Curry from Davidson, but that's
exactly
it. That is it.
It's crazy to see that, though. Like, and then Georgia, too. Georgia, Memphis, like, your guys like Anthony Edwards going to Georgia and James Wiseman going from Memphis. Like, James Wiseman is another one. Like, look at how many games he played in. He was ineligible for most of the season because of the whole entire transfer pool thing and whatnot. And I'm trying to see how many games he actually played in during this year, but I don't think he played in that many. If at all. He averaged about 20 points per game, 11 rebounds. Here's the kicker. He played in 3 games, averaged 11 rebounds, 20 points, 3 blocks, and in 3 games, he's a top 3, at least top 5 overall draft pick for the NBA. Like, that's Kyrie Irving territory.
Yeah, I miss Kyrie Irving.
Man, do we have to go into that? That's
Not
so
right
depressing.
now.
Like, looking at this team, though, like, as we mentioned, we are watching the NBA Finals of 2016, where Golden State is up 3-1. You have LeBron, you have Kyrie, you have Kevin Love, you also have Shumpert, you have J.R. Smith,
Richard Jefferson,
Richard Jefferson,
Mozgov.
Was Mozgov around? Yeah, he was around 20.
Mo Williams.
Yep, Mo Williams. Yeah, there's Mozzie right there.
Yeah, there.
Sasha Khan.
Channing Frye.
But like all these guys though, like
Deli.
Dante Jones.
Yeah, Dante Jones. Like, looking at that team though, like, I guess this would be like the last topic basketball wise to end up going into, but like, if the Cavs can actually be relevant again, which they can be. They're not that far away, in my opinion, with Andre Drummond, Kevin Love, if he ends up sticking around, which I think he will.
Do you think they both stay around?
No.
It's going to be one or the other. One or the other. And unfortunately, I love him, but Kevin Love, you can't build a championship team around Kevin Love. Kevin Love has to play with champions because Kevin Love does not have the hustle. He doesn't have the drive. He walks up and down the court just waiting to shoot an open 3.
Yeah,
that's true.
He doesn't play defense. He lumbers down the court, waits for the shot to go up, then gets in the paint, and finally gets a rebound. That's why he gets so many rebounds.
Listen, you know where it'd be the perfect spot for him, and you guys might hate this. If he gets traded, I talked about this on another show, the team the Cavs are playing right now with their small ball lineup, you put Love there at the 5, he fits there perfectly.
He does.
But let me ask you this. Who do you ask them for Love? Do you ask them for, well, give us your first-round pick, and we'll give you Kevin Love, or do you say, well, why don't you trade us back
star for star?
Why don't you trade us back Andre Wiggins? Would you take Wiggins back for Kevin Love?
I wouldn't want Wiggins.
Is Wiggins on
first round pick?
He's on the Warriors.
Wiggins is on the Warriors now? I didn't even know that.
I'm taking that first round pick.
But what if they say,
this
okay,
year's 2020 first round
I'll
pick?
tell you what, you're not going to get the number 1 overall pick, or
well, it'd be a top 5. So
it would
if
be.
they say,
I don't think you'd get a top 5 pick for Kevin Love right now.
So if they say we'll give you Wiggins back and second round next year,
I could see something like giving Kevin Love and maybe a guy like Jetty or someone like that, a combination deal for a first-round pick, but I can't see Kevin Love being worth the top 5 pick right now.
So then, okay, Kevin Love and Jetty for Andrew Wiggins. You doing that?
Depending on how many years I think Wiggins would have on his contract.
Because you do have your backcourt solidified then. You have a true point guard with Darius Garland. You have a shooting guard with Wiggins. Then you can start Kevin Porter at your small forward.
Yep.
You can put
you got Sexton as a
Sexton off the bench.
Off
doing,
the bench, yep.
Doing the shit that Jared Clarkson did. You got Drummond, and if you get a power forward in the draft, maybe Wiseman falls to you. You're set, dude.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's pretty solid starting lineup.
Yeah, definitely. But like the thing is, though, too,
I definitely think the key though is with all these small guys that we have. I mean, we have a very small team. You gotta find a way to keep Drummond. That guy
He's already
shows
said
up to
he's
play.
happy here. He's happy.
Him and Tristan. I think that'd be a great combination down low.
And the other thing is, he's buddies with Love, so that might be a deciding factor where he says, "Hey, Kevin, maybe you need to move to the bench. Let us draft somebody younger, and you could be my backup coming off the bench."
And like the thing is too is like, even if you end up getting like a James Wiseman or an Obi Toppin, I know I said that I think he's gonna be a bust, but at least at the end, Obi Toppin ended up playing in more games than James Wiseman. And he also is in his sophomore season. So, like, it makes more sense from that perspective. But, I mean, also looking at the Warriors, too, and from a reasonable perspective, if there's anybody that I can get and anybody that would actually make sense, I would say it would have to be Wiggins because, like, you're not going to get a Curry. You're not going to get a Draymond Green. You're not going to get a Klay Thompson. You're not going to get anybody that, even with that combo of Kevin Love and Cedi Osman, you cannot combine them and get a Curry, a Draymond Green, a Klay Thompson. That's not happening. So in reality, I guess Andrew Wiggins is your only hope at the end of the day.
I noticed there's a pretty important message in the comments. I saw Jason. He left a pretty important comment down there.
Let's check it out.
What do you say?
Oh, my God. Really?
Oh, wow. Is that from experience, Jason?
What do you say?
Well, look it up. You can't see it?
It involves like peeing on your forehead, kind of. But like,
oh yeah.
But like, yeah. I guess on that note, Riggs, why don't you read us off a sponsor, and then you could look at how big Paul Pierce is.
Smith Sewer and Drain Cleaning LLC. We do all of your drain cleaning services. We guarantee all of our work, and we proudly offer a 10% discount to military, police, firefighters, and seniors. Hell yeah. We are your local draining cleaning experts. Smith Sewer and Draining Cleaning LLC at 440-242-8704, 440-242-8704.
And that would be it for our first break on the We Like Sportz podcast. When we come back at the 8 o'clock hour, we will be talking to Dan Justik of the Dawg Pound Daily fan-sided Browns site. We'll be back after this. And we are back on the We Like Sportz podcast. Wow, I love the calling. Like, people end up, like, clicking in right away. Hey, how's it going, Dan?
Doing good. How y'all doing?
Good. You're here with Riggs and Austin and myself, Peyton. We're going to be talking some Browns news. Dan, give us a little bit of your background. I know that you're an expert for Dawg Pound Daily, the fan-sided site for the Browns. Give us a little bit of background info, though.
So I've been covering for the Dawg Pound Daily for about 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in May. And I've worked for a couple other websites. Started out covering the Seahawks, moved over to the Browns, then joined Dawg Pound Daily. Currently a student in journalism school at Ohio University. So basically it. Oh, yeah.
Isn't that the slogan, too? I didn't go to OU, but I know it's OU, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, obviously, assuming that, with some coverage of the Cleveland Browns, are you a Cleveland Browns fan, or were you more so a Seahawks fan and then just moved over to the Browns?
No, I've grown up a Browns fan since day one, pretty much.
Good man.
Live about half hour out of Cleveland. So
okay.
When I started covering the Seahawks, it was just because that was best job available, and they wanted someone to cover the Seahawks, so I just took it.
Gotcha. Awesome. Hungry for that opportunity. So, obviously, the Browns are making some moves this year with pretty much free agency as a whole, and they have the draft coming up here in a couple weeks. But I gotta say, so far, and give us your opinion too, but Austin Hooper has to be the overall best acquisition so far for the Browns. Wouldn't you agree on that?
Did we lose?
Can you hear me?
Oh.
Yeah, we can still hear you. Are you still there?
Yeah, I broke up for a second. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. We were saying, though, that Austin Hooper, wouldn't you say he's probably the best acquisition for the Browns so far in the offseason?
Personally, I'm more of the Jack Conklin signing because I just felt like the importance of that offensive line was huge this offseason.
Yes.
I felt it was the biggest problem for the Browns last year, and it was a major cause for the issues the offense had. Hooper's gonna be a huge addition just because of how much Kevin Stefanski loves to run 12 personnel. Having him work with Njoku, it's gonna be difficult for defenses to cover both, and it's gonna really impact how they defend the power run game and the zone run game because you're gonna need to be in nickel packages with both Njoku and Hooper on the field because of their pass catching abilities. So if you can get some solid blocking out of one of the two tight ends, it's going to create a lot of mismatches for the offense to take advantage of, either in the passing game or against the run. But Conklin, I feel like was huge just because both tackle spots were major issues for the Browns last year.
Right. I mean,
and now that
the line
now
has
that
always
Baker's
been a
comfortable,
problem.
So.
Also, too, I mean, with like when the Browns ended up signing Austin Hooper at pretty much first glance, a lot of people assumed that David Njoku was on his way out. And obviously, you said that Kevin Stefanski's scheme for offense is having two tight ends. So obviously, you would agree with the fact that David Njoku isn't going anywhere. It's going to be a split tight end like scheme idea.
I think as it stands right now, yes. Unless somehow in the draft they found more of a balanced tight end who could handle blocking duties as well. Njoku's still a young guy, so I'm sure he still has value around the league. So if the Browns can manage to find someone who they feel deems a better fit for the offense, perhaps they may move Njoku. But as it stands, it shouldn't be the biggest concern right now. I feel like having both of them together is a major addition for the both the offenses.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
And then also, too, with the pretty much backtracking here to pretty much mid-March with Joe Schobert, are you at all any upset with the fact that the Browns ended up having him walk and he ended up being essentially overpaid? Was that a concern for you at all, or was it kind of more so just like a sigh of relief because he was somebody that would have been overpaid, and they ended up signing B.J. Goodson instead from the Packers, and pretty much the linebacker position you ended up, I mean, all of your free agent pretty much signings so far this year for the Browns, everything has been at a reasonable price and guaranteed money up front. So to summarize, though, the question, would you be any upset with the fact that Joe Schobert ended up walking?
I think as of right now, it's kind of an issue. I don't see B.J. Goodson being more of a 3-down linebacker. I see him more being an early down run stuffer. And it's going to depend a lot on how Mack Wilson and Sione Takitaki develop because as of right now, linebacker looks like one of the biggest holes on this defense. There's not a lot of there's a lot of promise there, but just not enough proven production. Although Schobert may have been over $10 million in a year, he did prove that he can make tackles, and it is up to judgment if it was because he was just sitting the second level and he wasn't the best at run defense, but he was still a solid backer. I don't know if I would have paid him $12, $13 million a year, as some people would have, but if they make some more moves, find some more answers at linebacker, I think they'll be fine with it. But I don't know if it would be a smart move if they don't do much else at linebacker this offseason.
You're absolutely right.
Hey, Dan, this is Austin. About that linebacker position, I mean, I think it's obvious that the Browns are going to definitely go offensive tackle with the first-round draft pick. But you think that they're going to be looking more free agency or looking with maybe like the second or third round to try to fill a linebacker position hole?
So I feel like defense is going to be a heavy part of this draft, as it kind of seems like they went with cheap one-year deals just because they feel they can find more guys in the draft. If you look on the offensive side of the ball, don't have a lot of holes. I mean, other than tackle, which you're probably right, it's going to be his first-round pick. they don't have too much else to fill in. So I feel like there probably could be some answers in the draft early on, second, third round maybe. But there's also not a lot in free agency right now. You look at some guys, there's just linebackers that scooped up pretty quick. And since the first week of free agency, it's kind of died down. So I don't know if teams are just kind of weary about not getting these guys in their facilities or not. But it seems like the Browns might be more willing to wait until the draft to see what happens there.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
And this is Peyton once again. Outside of Jack Conklin pretty much being your top target for the Browns, if there is another good signing that the Browns end up making, what would you say that would be on the defensive side? Would you say an Andrew Billings would be the better one? Or I know obviously you said you're a little bit weary on B.J. Goodson, but who would you say would be the better on the opposite side of the ball from the defensive signing, if you believe there is one?
I think Billings probably was the best one. He filled a big need for the Browns, was that big defensive tackle up the middle who can stop the run and take on multiple blocks at the same time. And then they kind of put Larry Ogunjobi out of position last year, kind of moved around, and he suffered because of it. And now there's a lot of questions about what his future is with the team, because ever since he had to break out rookie year, solid second season, he did not live up to expectations last year. So having a rotation with him, Billings, and Richardson is going to be a help for all of them. The fact that he can take up multiple blocks is going to let the linebackers play a little more freer, shoot the gaps a little bit better, make some plays against the run. But I also looking at Carl Joseph. I think that was a great addition because he kind of, some people consider mediocre just because of his draft status. But since he's entered the league, he's been a solid safety for the Raiders. And he can play. He's decent in coverage. He's a hard hitter. Can come up and make plays against the run. So I really like Carl Joseph's signing. And you kind of tell that they're looking for some heavy hitters, guys that can make plays against the run. And I think that was what they needed this offseason, especially on the defense.
Do you think there's going to be any room in that secondary for Demarius Randall after the signing of Joseph and also Andrew Sendejo?
We were kind of wondering that over at Dawg Pound Daily. It's kind of an up in the air situation. It seems like Randall's more comfortable with outside the organization now, especially after the issues he had this year. But at the same time, it doesn't seem there's much of a market for him right now. And there's going to be a lot of questions about what happened with him, kind of calling out the organization about his injuries and all that. Some teams may not want to deal with the headache, and after the team dealt with that last season, they might just maybe more willing to move on from him than just kind of wing it with Sendejo and Carl Joseph.
Okay. This is Riggs of the We Like Sportz Podcast. Also, as a diehard Cleveland Browns fan, do you think the media and the whole Sports Illustrated people thinking we're going to make the Super Bowl, do you think that had a lot to do with our season making a nosedive? Because people in my neighborhood were telling me, "Oh, playoffs are bust. Oh, we're going to make the playoffs." I even heard the Super Bowl word come out of some Browns fans' mouth, and I even had to laugh at them. Like, look, I love my team too. I bleed orange, but I don't see that happening this year. So if I can get your input on that.
Yeah, I definitely think that the expectations put on them was probably one of the biggest issues for them last year. You can kind of tell once things didn't go their way early on, especially against the Titans, they just kind of seemed like, I don't want to say quit, but they just kind of gave up on games on all that. So.
And who would have thought the Titans were to be the ones to eliminate Tom Brady
and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and make it to the
AFC Championship. Yeah. Week 1, I would have said no, not the Titans, but hey, right. on any given Sunday, as the term goes.
Yeah, I mean, Vrabel's a hell of a coach. He's extremely underrated, and I think he's going to get some props now for what he did this season. But yeah, I think the expectations was a big deal for the Browns. I think the locker room kind of got a little overboard with it. Maybe they assumed too much and they didn't put in the work they needed. It's hard to say from that on an outside perspective on that, but you can just kind of guess that they may think that since they had enough talent, they can just kind of do whatever they needed to do, but they just didn't put in enough work to finish games, put in the work during the week, get prepared for games, and once they were exposed during the games, they just kind of crumbled.
Fairabill's from Akron, Ohio.
Yep, Vrabel's a local guy.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I got a question here for you. How fast is the hook going to be on Baker Mayfield with Case Keenum knowing the offense of Stefanski if he doesn't perform properly and up to par his first couple games?
I have been wondering about that because it just kind of seems like, especially if this is a condensed offseason, if they can't get in the offseason program and Baker can't get up to speed as quickly, it could create a lot of issues early on. And with Keenum knowing at least the verbiage from Stefanski and what he looks for in a quarterback, maybe the Browns stumble out of the gate, go 1-3, 0-3, something like that, where they put themselves behind the 8 ball right away. It might be a quicker hook than they want. Baker has the weapons, and he's going to have the line around him. So if he starts to struggle, it's going to be more of what is he not doing compared to what is the problems on the rest of the offense. It's going to be more of a focus on what's wrong with him instead of the offense. So knowing Keenum, knowing he can be a solid game manager, come in and handle games, it might be a quicker hook than we expect.
I remember last year with Baker Mayfield struggling and seeing some videos of him on his stationary bike. He started looking like Tim Allen from the Santa Claus. His beard would just get bigger, and he's just getting a little pudgy. But I did see that picture, and Tom Brady commented on Baker getting into better shape. Do you think that will have a better impact on the season for him?
I believe so. I do believe that they kind of had him put on a little more weight, so he can take some more hits in the NFL, because he showed that he's willing to move around, take some hits. But you could tell by last year he was slowed down and he couldn't get out he was not as mobile around the pocket. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he was definitely faster in his rookie year than he was last year. So if he can get in better shape, be able to move around a little bit more, it's going to help him, especially if they utilize the play action, get him on rollouts, get him on some boots. He's going to be able to move a little quicker than he was last year. So getting in shape's not a bad thing for him.
So also with the fact, this is Peyton once again, but with the fact of a local sports writer that's in a bigger media area than in the Cleveland area, I should say. I'm pretty much giving the website away without giving the actual website. But they were asked by a fan if it makes sense to trade Kareem Hunt for moving up from their 10th overall draft pick. What are your thoughts on that? And if you do agree with it, what would be your ideal trade scenario?
So I'm not too comfortable moving on from Hunt, trading him away. I know, granted, running backs don't have the longest life cycle in the NFL, but him and Chubb in the backfield, especially if it's going to be a heavy run offense, you're going to want to take some of the weight off the legs of Chubb. Finding that dual back, I don't really feel comfortable moving on from Hunt. And personally, I feel like we're fine at 10 to at least get one of the top tackles. And the idea maybe to move up to try to get Isaiah Simmons, but at the same time, he might be gone top 5. So you're not guaranteeing that you're going to be able to get your guy if you move up. So I don't like the idea of moving Hunt just to move up a couple of picks, especially since we're going to be running the ball a ton. And Chubb, you can kind of tell during his rookie season, he slowed down a little bit towards the end of the year. And it was just because of the amount of workload they put on him. So I feel like if you can balance out the workload between Chubb and Hunt for a full season, the fresher legs by the end of the year could help the Browns out a ton.
I like that.
And then also, too, with the fact of pretty much like how our producer David ended up mentioning with like Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum and how short that leash is, what are your expectations for his third season, Baker Mayfield's third season, better than his sophomore season? And do you think that kind of like that sophomore slump was that ideal thing from him this past season with the Cleveland Browns?
Oh, yeah, I definitely expect a huge improvement from him. And it seems like they're going to be building an offense. It's going to be more quarterback friendly. And having a bit of a more balanced offense is going to help him a lot. He may not be one of the top quarterbacks in the league in terms of yardage and touchdowns, but you just got to have him move the ball down the field. And the biggest issue was he was afraid to push the ball downfield last year, and he couldn't take his underneath routes. So I feel like the biggest thing is going to be his growth of diagnosing the defense, moving through his progressions, finding the open guy, and not trying to take too much. He kind of relied on his arm strength, threading the needle his rookie year. And that didn't pay off for him last year. It showed off with a lot of interceptions and a lot of near interceptions as well. So I think if he can kind of manage the games a little bit better, take the smart plays, I think we'll see an improvement. And having Keenum there, helping him with at least helping with the Stefanski's offense, should definitely be beneficial for him.
Okay. This is Riggs again. I have a question. Have you seen a preview or have you got a glimpse of what our schedule for the Browns look like this year?
I have not. I have not seen what it will look like. I know I know the teams we're going to be we have the idea of the teams we'll be facing, but not in the order we have.
Oh, okay. Because I was just wondering, because this year I don't see us having as many primetime games as we did last year because of the whole hype of, the Browns, what can we do with our high expectations we had. So, I don't know. I just want to know, if we see a New England this year or it matters because, Tom's not there, but.
I definitely expect them to have a couple primetime games. Maybe not as many as we did last year. Maybe a couple Monday nighter. I don't see the Sunday night happening again, just because that was mainly due to the expectations. But I feel like the Browns have enough star power in them, and especially if they have some success early on, they may flex them into some games later on in the year. But I can expect probably about 2 or 3 primetime games this year.
That's about right. I like that. Yeah.
And do you guys have any other questions at all for Dan before we end up?
I got one more. I know the Browns are going to definitely have to rely heavy on the run early on in the season, and having the addition of Jack Conklin and Austin Hooper, who is definitely an upgrade in the blocking category than Njoku. Do you see Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb possibly both being 1,000-yard backs this year?
Yeah, I can actually just think about that now. Yeah, I can see it. It's going to be hard to take away what the Browns are going to be able to do. There's just so many weapons on this offense, and if you compare it to Minnesota didn't have as many weapons as the Browns did. Kyle Rudolph was a solid tight end for them, but he is not the type of pass catcher that Austin Hooper's proven to be. And gaining chunks of yards is what Chubb and Hunt thrived at last year. So even if they split the time, it's going to rely on a lot on the run. So, yeah, I can imagine both of them being 1,000-yard backs.
Okay, perfect. And, Dan, this is Peyton once again. Last question for you. What are your expectations for Kevin Stefanski in his first year as the Cleveland Browns head coach?
So I'm always kind of cautiously optimistic, especially after what happened last season. I feel like he's more prepared, and he's more suited for being a head coach compared to Kitchens. So I can see him having a 9-7 type season, but I think a lot of it will come down to what kind of off-season program they're able to put together with everything going on right now. If they have condensed schedule in the off-season, I think it's going to be a lot harder for him in his first season, especially early on in the year, to adjust. So if they have a full off-season, I feel like he can do fine, but the condensed off-season could potentially be a huge issue for him.
Okay, perfect. And Dan, before we let you go, end up giving our listeners where they could find your content at and where they could find you on your social media as well.
So we are at Dawg Pound Daily, all one word, dawgpounddaily.com, and you can find me at Twitter at Dan Justik, and we also have our Twitter at Dawg Pound Daily, same title. So right there you can find all my work and all our writers' works.
Okay, perfect. Dan, thank you once again for calling in. We greatly appreciate it, and hopefully for our Browns fans out there, they have a lot better of a season compared to last year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Wow, another good interview in back-to-back weeks. So before we end up going to our next break, guys, as we ended up mentioning the Browns, what are your ideal first initial thoughts? I mean, obviously, let's say the season just resumes as is and the virus doesn't end up costing them any time. I mean, obviously, it's going to cost them some training camp and OTAs, but what are your ideal thoughts as to how the Browns will do this year? Because I know you guys are both Browns fans here.
I think either way, even if Baker does struggle early on, I think that the new additions on the offensive line as well as in the tight end category for blocking, because I do believe Chubb and Hunt are 2 of the top 5 backs in the league. And I just think that they could be super dangerous on the ground, and Baker might not even have to worry about too much pressure right off the get-go. And hopefully that can get him comfortable so that he can take us on a run and hopefully get a playoff spot this year.
I'm happy at the tight end spot. I don't know what we're gonna do. Every year, people ask me as a Browns fan, "What do you think we're gonna do this year? How you think our record's gonna be?" Talk to me after week 4, week 5. Then I can probably give you a good number or where we might take a nosedive at. Or even if I was to look at the Browns schedule right now, I can't sit here and say, oh, that's a win, that's a loss, that's a win, that's a loss. Because I don't know, especially being a Browns fan. You never know.
I mean, just look last year. After week 4, the Browns were 2-2. They won a primetime game. They played a good game against the former Super Bowl runner-ups in the Rams. And they beat the Ravens, who ended up making it to the AFC Championship, and they beat them pretty convincingly. And then just right after that, it just went downhill.
Yeah, week 4, I believe, we played San Francisco on Monday Night Football, and we got embarrassed.
That was the next week, week 5. Yeah, we were 2-2 going into that.
I was just like, oh, okay. Well, I thought we were going to beat the Niners, but that tells me don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly.
And I mean, also, too, I guess what gives Browns fans some hope, too, is the fact that everybody that ends up watching football have seen what they end up doing, what winning teams end up doing, and that's having that mixture of pretty much being a run-heavy team once again. Because you had Derrick Henry that ran for almost 200 yards in 2 straight weeks during the playoffs, and Ryan Tannehill with like 10, 20 pass attempts combined in 2 games. Jimmy Garoppolo, same thing. Not too many pass attempts, heavy run game, though, with guys that aren't even really that relevant. Most wasn't really that relevant going into the season. Tevin Coleman was, and Matt Breida, but they ended up disappearing, and I still don't know where they went. Did they end up going to 7-Eleven to end up getting some pizza and hot dogs and some snacks and ended up working there, or what? They just disappeared out of the blue. And when you end up having a quarterback that is at least somewhat competent from the fact that could actually pass the ball and read pretty much other systems on the defensive end, and you have 2 running backs that are capable, like you guys mentioned, of 1,000-yard seasons for each individual one, that gives you hope. I mean, obviously, hope isn't a word you want to hear as a Browns fan, but it's something you have to live on pretty much at this time. But
and a prayer.
Yeah, living on a prayer, right? But Riggs, why don't you end up reading off one of the sponsors, and then we'll end up going to break.
Millsy Motorsports, 43 Pierce Avenue West, Carrollton, Ohio, 45449. Your GM front-wheel drive performance specialist. Our service include dyno turning, PCM programming, custom fabrication, performance parts, engine building, cylinder head portioning, maintenance, and engine swaps. American Muscle Reborn. That's Millsy Motorsports at 937-671-7345. That's 937-671-7345. Owner is Mike Miller, not the basketball player.
God. And when we get back, we'll have Tommy Caroselli, the Solon JV head coach.
Welcome back to the We Like Sportz Podcast. We are going to be heading into another segment, talking a little bit about high school sports and kind of how the coronavirus has halted a lot of these young kids in their pursuit to try to go play college baseball or something. We're on the line with Tommy Caroselli. He's the Solon JV baseball coach. Good to have you on, Tommy.
What's up, Tom?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, man.
Good.
How are you?
Doing good. Actually, just finished up recording the latest episode of my pod, Gaff to Gaff, and just trying to anchor down and wait out this horrible pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, we gave a little bit of your background really quick of being the JV baseball coach for Solon High School. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. We also found out just a few minutes ago that you and Austin both know each other.
Yeah, so me and Austin actually played against each other at Parma High for a couple years, and then I actually just missed him because he was at Tri-C the year before that I was there, because I played a year at Tri-C for some junior college baseball. And then as soon as I got out of Tri-C, I ended up linking up with Force Sports, which is a travel organization here, in Northeast Ohio. And then I've been coaching there ever since. And then I had about a year under my belt at Force and decided I wanted to get into the high school circuit, and linked up with Solon and have been there ever since. And we've been lucky to run into a good string of success and develop players, and had a Final Four appearance in 2016 and have won 4 straight conference championships, and now we're just, hoping we get a chance to win a 5th here.
And unfortunately, I mean, obviously you mentioned the fact that obviously a 5th year, it's looking as if essentially that 5th year for 2020 will have to be on pause as of right now due to the fact that, I mean, at least from the perspective of our governor in Ohio, Mike DeWine, that schools are closed until I believe he said May 1st. So obviously, I mean, that's right in the almost tail end of the high school sports, high school baseball season. I mean, that's pretty much the end of your regular season schedule and then going to playoffs. So obviously you're a high school coach for baseball. And at least from that personal perspective of seeing all the kids going through it, do you at least give your thoughts on how it impacts the kids so far from, I mean, at least your guys that are seniors and juniors that are trying to prove themselves and end up getting that enrollment in for pretty much the last tail end of their junior and senior year. And also if you're talking to any of the kids at all that are going through this, what they're feeling and what they're thinking of this and how it's impacting them personally.
The kids are gutted. I've had the chance to talk to a few of our juniors at Solon, and then a couple of the kids that play summer ball with me at Force Sports that are seniors, and they're just absolutely gutted. They tell me, I don't care how, I don't care when, I just want to get out on that field again. And honestly, like, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I feel like I'm about to go hit bungos in the backyard. Like, I just, I need something. And the kids feel the exact same way. Because like you said, there's guys that are looking to play ball at the college level and are uncommitted right now. And they were looking at this senior season as a way to, find a home. And, you're taking that away. And not only are you taking away the guys, that have the potential of playing college, the guys that aren't going to play in college, and this is it for them. Like, you're taking away, some of their lasting memories. That, I mean, we've all played high school sports, and like, these are the things that you look back on: your senior nights, your last game when you laced up the cleats. And I mean, for 90% of people, they knew it was that last game. But for these guys that are seniors this year, they finished up their last game their junior year, not knowing it was going to be their last game. So it's sad.
Damn, yeah, that kind of like that tug on a heartstring. Like, I could imagine sitting in the locker room, putting on my cleats, like, this is the last game I'm ever going to play in my high school career because I'm going to go do something different, and that's by their choice. And like you just said, this pandemic we going through made the choice for them pretty much.
Yeah, and you know what? We're still hopeful. Like you said, Governor DeWine has kind of been optimistic about May 1st. How realistic that is still to be determined. But we talk as a coaching staff twice a week, and we're kind of in that same boat of if we find a way to make it happen, we're going to get as many games as we can for the kids, and if we don't, then whenever we're allowed to get back on that field again, we're going to find a way to honor the seniors in some way and have some sort of a senior honor night.
That's awesome. Yeah, Tommy, this is absolutely, it's driving me nuts as well, just not having sports around and everything. And it's just one of those things, like, I could not imagine going through this as a high school baseball player. And thankfully, we didn't have to deal with it. I mean, it's just absolutely overwhelming. And I just can't even wait to get softball season started at this point. I mean, that's what I'm worried about.
I'm wearing my Sandcraft jersey right now. I can't wait to get going.
And that's another thing too. I mean, just to mention that fact too, with softball season, I ended up playing. Austin, I know you play out in Parma. Tommy, I'm assuming that you play out in Parma as well with Austin.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I play out in Strongsville, but like I got that email and it's just like, we're on hold right now, stay tuned. I don't have any decision whatsoever. And then you also go with that fact, and I'm still trying to get a team together because we couldn't pull a sponsor, and we're just waiting. And it's like, I know half you guys are all without a job, but like, if you have the money and you still want to play, let me know, toss me the money, and we could hopefully get registered and get this thing rolling. But like, it's just such a pain right now. I completely understand it.
Tommy, you don't want to play for Peyton's team.
Yeah,
we've gotten better.
It's brutal in that regard. We actually had a a fundraiser for our team that had to be canceled because of this whole thing. And it's kind of in that same vein of, some of these guys are jobless right now, and now we're going to have to be scratching for money to even have a season if we do, if we're able to have a season because of the leagues.
Yeah. Switch gears just a little bit. Not only do you coach Solon's JV baseball team, but you also mentioned that you coach for Sports, which is a travel baseball organization, and we've all played. Well, me and you, I know we both played a lot of travel baseball growing up. What's the game plan right now with Force Sports and you guys moving forward into this summer travel ball season?
So for right now, we're kind of just in a waiting period of seeing, how much baseball we're going to have to play. Like if this thing goes into June, like that's kind of the beauty of the way summer baseball is right now, is it's weekend to weekend. So just because your first weekend in June gets canceled because of the pandemic doesn't mean your last weekend in June will. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about it. But in terms of our athletes, we've been able to email them a training program to kind of keep them active, keep them, keep the skills sharp in the home. And, we have a great program there with our baseball director, Josh Bieneman, and our developmental director, Anthony Mendoza. They've done a great job of having individualized training plans for all the athletes. It's been fantastic. So the plan is just kind of wait and see. I mean, we have the ability to play competitive baseball, and it'll just be the question of, are we going to get the opportunity to?
And Tommy, this is Peyton again. From going back to the high school sports situation, I know that there's been ways to get around situations that I know that I want to say Parma Community School doesn't have any sports, but I heard the rumor before that if you could end up playing somewhere, you could play a high school sport for a different team or a different school. So, I mean, with that, would you say that there's a possibility, kind of similar to how college has offered the extra year of eligibility, that any way that happens in high school, that, I mean, obviously with that age group of, let's say just the chunk of varsity from 15 to 18, you'll end up having probably a 19-year-old, which ends up going into the talks of a little bit of unfair just because you have a grown-ass man. But it just ends up the fact that the extra year of eligibility, how likely is it that ends up happening, if it's even in talks at all, or if there's any idea for the seniors at all, or is it just pretty much your junior year is pretty much it if there's no season in 2020?
So from the conversations that we've had as a coaching staff and my understanding of the OHSA director, Jerry Snodgrass's, the way he's been talking, I think it's just kind of going to be, sorry about you, and your junior year turned into your senior year of athletics. I think, to your point with the Parma Cancellation schools, and even with, I know out in Lorain County, they have the JVS, the vocational schools. I bet there's probably a workaround in some way or another, but it would just be if, are you willing as a 19-year-old to go to school for another year at a vocational school just to play baseball or run track or whatever have you?
It just sucks just for the kids too, as a whole, just because looking back at it, imagining this happened right in the pretty much your regionals for basketball season. So your district game for basketball, if you're a 3-sport athlete that plays football, basketball, and baseball, you didn't realize it at the time, but lacing up your basketball shoes, your sneakers pretty much for pretty much expecting to play and make a good run in the playoffs for basketball, that could have been your last game as an athlete in your senior year as a whole, which has to be disappointing. And when you look at it from that perspective too, from the fact that you not only laced up your cleats for baseball in your junior year, but the fact that your high school career ended on a note of a sport that doesn't usually end the school year. Basketball doesn't usually end the school year. It's usually baseball or track or whatever. It's just when you end up actually looking at it, you feel bad for the kids out there that they have no say in it whatsoever either. And especially if this is the end of the road for them and they can't or they don't want to play sports in college, it just sucks. Or even if they're not going to college, it just looking at it from that perspective, it has to end up tearing you to pieces at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely. We actually have a specific case of that. We got a two-sport athlete senior, Chad Marks. He's a shooting guard on the basketball team, and he's a pretty good right-handed pitcher for our baseball team. And like you said, who would have thought that, when they got bounced in the I think it was the regional or the regional final against Shaker Heights, that would be the end of the road, potentially, assuming we don't play a baseball season. And I love Chad. He's a great kid. He comes from a great family. And, my heart just hurts for all these kids that are affected like that. And I feel even worse for the one sport guys that, like, we have a senior who's luckily going to go play in college at Indiana State, but this kid just lives and breathes baseball. And, he's going to have that last opportunity to be a Comet potentially ripped away from him. And man, my heart just breaks for these kids.
And now also to pretty much the point that you guys made, that you're still hopeful that there's still some type of season or pretty much any type of, like, some kind of game is being played for baseball. In the event that does happen, that, let's say, May 3rd, obviously, would it be some time before you guys end up having the season, since there is some sort of conditioning and maybe like a week or two before you end up actually playing, or is that just out of the window and you're going to end up playing as many games as possible in whatever way, whatever practice that you've gotten in at home in this type of situation?
Well, so the way that it was going to be originally when DeWine, shut down the schools and made it this 3-week extended spring break or whatever they decided to call it, they made it so that when we came back on April 6th, which would be a week from this past Monday, we would have had 1 week of practice, and then on that Saturday, so Monday to Friday is a mandatory practice only, no competition, and then Saturday you can begin competition. I would assume it would follow the same structure where you have a Monday to Friday of nothing but practice, and then the next Saturday you can begin competition.
Is there any way that you think they might run the high school baseball season into the summer a little bit? I mean, I know football, they can start practicing in the summer when they're not in school. Do you think that possibly they could extend the season into the summer for these kids?
That's a good question.
Well, I mean, you guys and I both know that football's king in Northeast Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely.
I think that any time that you run into messing with those, even if a school calls them, not a practice day, it's a meeting, and oh yeah, here you're doing 20 push-ups while you're here and throwing this football around.
That's a rough meeting as an adult.
What's that?
I said that's a rough meeting as an adult.
But yeah, I mean, I think anytime you push into where you're butting up against football, you're running a risk. And then I think even to a point, if you're running up against summer baseball, because we're lucky at Force, we're able to make it pretty affordable for these kids. But there's a lot of travel programs that charge an arm and a leg for these kids to play summer ball, and you wonder if a parent's going to choose to, let's say, forfeit that money to let their kid play for their high school, or the high school might have backed up for the last 2 weeks or for the first 2 weeks of June, but are we really willing to sacrifice those 2 weeks of tournaments? You know what I mean?
And you're probably already have the tournaments. You're already committed to the tournaments, and it'd be hard. I mean, you have to pay to get into the tournaments, so I'm sure you already have commitments towards summer ball already, and it'd be hard to kind of go through both of them.
It's going to be interesting. I think it's possible that we see the OHSAA kind of flex their muscles and say, hey, you know what, this has never happened before, so sorry about it, summer ball. But it's possible. I think at most we see maybe the first 10 days of June become part of the interscholastic athletic year.
And then after that, essentially, that would be, if it goes any further than that, pretty much early June, that's it. Like, that's going to be the end of the season. Ideally, if it does happen, that early June's pretty much the cutoff for the end of the season.
That's what I would guess, and it's 100% speculation.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Just because with information, situations like this, we obviously have no idea with an if and when type scenario, and it just happens to be an if and when. But before we end up letting Tommy go, guys, do you have any other questions for Tommy at all regarding high school sports, or pretty much how it's impacting everybody, from professional athletes to us not watching it on TV to even high school athletes that were banking on this.
It's rough, Tommy. I just gotta say, stay strong. Tell the kids to stay strong, and I'll see you in this summer softball season.
Possibly.
Can't wait for
Possibly.
it.
Yeah, man. Be safe. Take care. If I was a high school athlete right now, and you were my coach, and I knew where you lived, I'll be at your house trying to run 2-a-days or stretch or something or play catch. Seriously.
You know, it's funny. It's funny you say that because we actually had to tell our kids, because when we let our kids go on whatever that was, early March, we told them, hey, work hard, do as much as you can. If you guys got to get together. We can't, make anything, arranged by us. But if you guys want to arrange it, go ahead. And we actually had to send out a memo to our kids about 10 days ago. It says, look, we love that you're working hard, but you guys got to be safe and dial it back a bit. So train on your own, don't train in groups.
Okay, yeah.
Well, Tommy, before we end up letting you go, why don't you end up plugging your social media again as well? And you did mention a podcast, so you could feel free to plug that away as well. And thank you for coming on once again.
Anytime, guys. Anytime you guys want to talk shop and talk baseball, I'm your guy. So
absolutely.
The social across all boards is at Carosielli 8. That's TCAROSIELLI and the number 8. And the podcast is Gap to Gap, and it's presented by the startup that I've been working with, the Breakdown Sports, and it's THEBRKDWN there. So, thank you guys so much for having me on, and definitely looking forward to coming back if you'll have me.
Hopefully we could talk a little bit of Cleveland Indians when that season ends up coming back on.
Right.
Yeah, I can't wait, man.
Same here. Thank you once again, Tommy.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
When Austin, I mean, I know, like, we were, like, this is the first show with you, and, like, we weren't, like, Riggs and I and Keith, like, we weren't even thinking about it from the perspective of, like, the high school kids, and, like, for that, I actually kind of feel a little bit of an asshole for it. Like, I don't even, like, I didn't think about it, but, like, putting myself in the shoes of these kids that are missing out on opportunities, missing out on those moments. I mean, shit, the first time I ever had a beer was my regional finals game after we ended up losing my senior year. Like, that was my first beer ever. Like,
oh yeah, there's nothing better than having a Friday baseball game and then having a little house party, with some milk and cookies, good stuff like that afterwards.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the social aspect of just being with your best friends, playing the most beautiful game in the world. And you're just missing out on it, because I coached 4 years at Parma High School as the assistant varsity baseball coach, and I mean the impact that that high school sports has on kids, it really it's life changing, and it's just so unfortunate that these kids don't get that opportunity for that one last time. So,
and I mean, like, I even put it into my shoes too, because, like, as like a high school baseball athlete. When did I missed out on my freshman and sophomore year. I played my junior year, and my senior year, I mean, like, as a senior, you were automatically on varsity, but I wasn't going to play, and I just got all new equipment. So I ended up saying, I walked into my coach's office, and I'm like, Coach, like, I know I'm not starting. I know I'm probably not going to play, but I just got this new equipment. Like, could you have me go down to JV? Like, I want to play JV. I want to play. I want to do something.
I pictured you walk into an office like, Coach, you want me? I don't know. I just did for some reason.
Peyton will play all 25 games on the JV team, and then on the last game of the season, all the seniors walk in with their jersey. I want Peyton to play for me on varsity, kind of Rudy style.
But like that experience alone, like, I think I made school history. It's not like it's in the record books, and it's not like Tommy's friend Sully would end up knowing it all, but. I think I was the first person to actually, like, step down, because not too many people, like, wanted to, because they don't care about playing varsity. Like, they wouldn't mind sitting and taking a couple grounders before games. Like, they were just a part of it for the ride. But I got to play JV baseball the whole entire year, and then come playoffs, I was able to travel with the team to go to playoffs, and I didn't see anything whatsoever. And personally, I didn't want to, because I was so gosh darn anxious. I was going to say the GD, but I'm trying to be PG somewhat.
GD, say PG.
But I was just so anxious that, like, I wanted to play, but, like, even if I would have played on that varsity level, like, I wouldn't feel right doing so. But, like, imagining the fact that my first year was my junior year, I would have, if it was the same scenario and this happened right now and I was to graduate in 2020, my junior year, my first season would have been my only season when you look at it, and that sucks.
Well, coronavirus took away the best 4 years of my life.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's how, as a kid, when you're playing varsity sports, JV sports, playing sports as a whole, Riggs, that's how you get recognized by the girls. Like, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Austin knows it best. Like, he has to, you know?
Hey.
But, Riggs, before we end up going to our next break, and when we get back, we're going to end up doing a 2020 NFL mock draft for the Cleveland Browns, since we did talk some Browns. Riggs, read us off one of those sponsors really quick.
Our sponsor right now is our home, Detroit Auto Parts, Westside 4941 Pearl Road, Cleveland, Ohio. They're your friendly neighborhood car parts stores. Mention Redline Radio LLC to receive 10% off of your purchase. That is Detroit Auto Parts, Westside 4941 Pearl Road, Cleveland, Ohio, at 216-398-7373. That's 216-398-7373. We love you, Detroit Auto Parts.
Killed it.
And we're back on the We Like Sportz podcast. I mean, obviously, we had a couple guests today. We talked some Browns. We talked some high school sports. You're with us until about another 20 minutes or so.
Buy the damn shirts, please.
Buy the new shorts.
Who's on the new shirts? You got a design for him yet?
Not yet, but it's gonna be Austin's face as well, along with Keith too. So somehow we're gonna fit 4 people into one T-shirt.
Just put us on like a Mount Rushmore or something.
Oh shit! I didn't think about that.
Hey,
But
That's actually a good idea.
That really is.
oh man, we might do that, or else we might end up going with like the T-shirt idea of the same thing. Because like Austin, if you Rick, just stand up really.
I've
quick
always
and show
wanted
off that shirt.
I've always wanted my face on a bobblehead. So
But like,
I mean,
look at that, like. That Indians jersey that I have right there, that's not actually an Indians jersey. It says Wahoo's on it. That's how you get around copyright. You
nice.
Brown colors, but it just says the name of a really fucking cool independent.
Who designed them?
Oh hell yeah!
Some
AI
chick
dub.
on Instagram. And Riggs's is a CLE hat because he couldn't get with the Chief Wahoo. And the Cleveland Cavaliers jersey just says calves, like the calf muscles. But it's calves, CALVES.
Hey, real quick, spell CAL or pronounce CAL.
Cal,
No, pronounce VES.
Vez,
Put them together.
Calvez. What the fuck is Calvez?
You mean calves?
Oh, I'm like Calvez. Calvez, is this Spanish? Did you just teach me Spanish, Mr. Calvez?
Eddie Guerrero. Oh, man. But, I mean, obviously, we're going to end up getting new T-shirts here soon. You could get them, the old ones, on teespring.com and just search the We Like Sportz merch. Exact words.
Good thing I didn't buy a new hoodie.
There's a reason why. A lot of people didn't. Our former co-host ended up disappearing off the face of the earth, and a lot of people have his face on it, so whatever. Also, too, social media, again, Twitter and Instagram are at We Like Sportz PC. Facebook page is We Like Sportz Podcast. Our YouTube page as well. We'll end up having the re-airing of this Facebook Live on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. on the We Like Sportz Podcast YouTube page. And again, the replay of this show will be at 9 a.m. on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, and Anchor. But as I look at my phone really quick, the depression has kicked in. My flight from Cleveland to Tampa is now $55 round trip, and I should be at Tampa tomorrow. But it's not.
Peyton, let's go.
I already canceled my ticket, and I have my future flight credit coming up, and I'm hoping that SummerSlam ends up happening for me, and that's the only hope. Otherwise, I have a flight for no reason. So if
Who
anybody,
were you going with?
it was going to be me and my one friend Andrew that never was on a flight before.
Oh, that's fun.
So,
oh my God, Dave, I'm gonna pass out.
So he was actually watching. I don't think he's watching anymore. But he's actually a cleaner at Parma Hospital, so he's going through it right now. from the aspect of seeing the craziness. And his exact words at Parma Hospital was, it's as if you would combine the meerkats with the orangutans, or like the pumas. It was like combining two animals together, and that was the zoo.
Dave reminds me of the meerkat from Lion King.
I do.
Dave.
Potato. I should have right.
You dickhead.
Man. So, as we end up mentioning that we did talk some Browns, we're going to backtracking here. We are on fanspeak.com, and we're going to end up drafting the Browns, at least probably the first couple of rounds, if not the whole draft. But as of right now, your top 9 picks are Joe Burrow to Cincinnati, Chase Young to the Redskins, Isaiah Simmons to the Lions, Derek Brown to the Giants, Tua's going to the Dolphins, Justin Herbert from the Chargers, Andrew Thomas to the Panthers, Jeffrey Okudah, I want to say that was the Ohio State cornerback, to the Cardinals, and CeeDee Lamb from wide receiver for the Jaguars. So the Browns need an offensive tackle, an edge, a safety, a linebacker, a wide receiver, a guard, a cornerback, a tight end, a QB, and a defensive lineman.
Holy shit.
That's all the needs so far. If you end up going with the best player available, it's Tristan Wirfs, he was projected to be the 8th overall.
Offensive tackle out of Iowa.
Then you have Jerry Jeudy, that is the wide receiver for Alabama.
Saban.
Jeff Gladney from TCU. What are you guys thinking here, ideally? What position would you guys get with that 10th overall draft pick? Are you getting a wide receiver? Are you getting an offensive tackle?
We have so much talent everywhere in every skill position on that offense. We don't need no more skill position players, I believe. You have to go offensive tackle there.
Yeah, you have to worry about that O-line. I'm not worried about any other positions until I figure out my offensive lineman first. Like that is the biggest hole in the Cleveland Browns playbook so far this year. We have to worry about that front line. Get yourself a nice, big, corn-fed motherfucker who's agile and who can move.
So when you say corn-fed,
someone that looks like Hillbilly Jim from 1986, but he could run a 3 whatever, or whatever the fastest thing in a combine is.
Are you talking a guy from Iowa, a guy from Louisville, or a guy from Alabama?
Either or, with a banjo on their knee.
I think we'd have to go with Tristan Wirfs from Iowa, just also because of the fact that this is a 10th overall pick and he was projected 8th.
How big is he? No weird stuff.
Large.
I think 10.
That's sad. I looked at him when he said 10, and I looked at the comment.
We're talking dick size, right?
I thought he was talking about the chicken I got in my backyard.
Do you have a 10-inch chicken in your backyard?
A 10-inch cock in my backyard, yeah.
Oh, see, I'm actually thinking you have a chicken in your backyard. Like, oh, you have a big cock.
Wait, what was that, Riggs?
Shut up.
All right, so Tristan Wirfs is 6'5" and 320 pounds.
Can Baker see over him?
Probably not. Then Mekhi Brown from Louisville. Yeah, from Louisville. He will be 6'5", 250. I don't like that weight.
I like to solve the puzzle.
That is big. You need to be pretty agile to be a tackle.
Right. I want someone like Michael Orr from the fucking blind side. Well, no, that's a different position. Where's our Julia Roberts to motivate somebody?
In your backyard.
Julia Roberts was not
that
even
was
in there.
Yeah, that was in Julia.
Oh, that's son of a bitch.
Isn't it Sandra Bullock?
Bullock.
Correct.
Julia Roberts has like wide lips. Pretty woman. She played a prostitute.
Jedrick Willis Jr. is 6'5", 320 pounds from Alabama. I'd have to go with Tristan Wirfs just because that when you look up pretty much the number 8 and 14, 8's lower. So I just have to go with that. Yeah.
Dang.
So I'm just gonna have to go with that idea.
See, me, I'm looking at like, oh, we have somebody from under Nick Saban's under Nick Saban's model. So, well, let's go with this person.
Yeah, but Nick Saban's whole model is he produces defenses.
Yeah, that's why I was like, well,
defenses that are so good that
it looks intriguing. But I wouldn't just go with it off rip like you just said exactly.
All right. So on to the next round. Nobody notable really that I paid attention to. Like no quarterbacks. A couple other guys, but stuff. Trying to pretty much get all the whole entire Browns things. This is also again on fanspeak.com. Browns coming up in the second round. Do they have a second round pick? I believe they do, right? Chase Claypool.
I think in this in the second round you gotta focus on the defense here. Either go for a linebacker or an edge rusher to play opposite of Myles Garrett.
Let's look at the linebackers and then we could look at edges. Willie Gay Jr.
I actually saw him being projected to the Browns in a different mock draft. One of those networks, whatever it is, CBS Sports or Fox Sports, one of them. But
so
I did see that name before in the projection.
Riggs, you did say in Austin too. You guys pretty much agreed with the fact that if you go on the defensive side, you kind of want that Alabama product, right?
There we go.
So would you want an edge rusher that would be Terrell Lewis? Or would you want Anthony Jennings at linebacker?
I like when players have confusing names. So
I swear to
go
God, I
thought
about that too. Yeah, like Oben Joe.
Oh, yep.
Oh, he's fucking good.
So we're gonna go Anthony.
Anthony.
It's like Anthony, but it's just like you're saying it like completely.
You ever
wrong.
seen the movie Mean Girls with Lindsay Lohan? Tim Meadows said the same thing in that fucking movie. He's like, "Oh, my sister wanted to name my nephew Anthony. Just name him Anthony." I swear to God, if you go back and you watch Mean Girls, Tim Meadows says the same fucking thing.
Why do you know Mean Girls that well?
Because it's a damn good movie. Tell Aaron his hair looks sexy, push back. Aaron, your hair looks sexy, push back. Shay Shay. Like, it's a good-ass movie.
J.K. Dobbins was drafted in this draft by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That looks very intriguing for Tom Brady just because of the fact. Second round, pick 10, I believe.
Pick 10, I believe.
KJ Hill to the Ravens.
Who's the guy Pittsburgh taking?
In the second round? It was actually the 13th pick was J.K. Dobbins.
I wouldn't be surprised if
Jordan
the
Love,
Steelers just pick
second round
every
pick.
single Ohio State guy like they always do.
And that's where I think the Browns fuck up at. It's like we never pick anyone homegrown like that. Like everybody else wants to pick Buckeyes, and it's like, oh, yeah, I remember him when he played for the college team I root for, but my professional team that sits by the lake doesn't want to pick up anybody like that.
So the Steelers ended up getting in this draft Jordan Love in the second round, Utah State, human movement science major. He is 6'4", 225 pounds. I guess he's kind of when you end up comparing him really quick, and I know we have a couple Browns guys here, but it's about even with 2 and 2 with Steelers and Browns.
Oh, yeah, you're a Steelers fan. I forgot about that.
I forget about that shit,
Yeah,
too.
what the hell?
I know.
Why are we even sitting in this room with him talking Cleveland sports when
We're
this
talking
dude's
national sports,
Eh.
too. It just so happens that the Browns are in the news because they're actually doing something. Ben Roethlisberger is 6'5", 241 pounds, and Jordan Love is 6'4", 225 pounds. So ideally, Ben Roethlisberger and Jordan Love are almost the same in comparison. So I like the fact that they end up getting a quarterback in the second round.
Just mind your business.
Let's see what else they got. In the third round, they have Prince Tega Wanogo from
The
somewhere.
Anawai family?
Yeah, somewhere. Offensive tackle by the Bengals. Raekwon Davis, defensive lineman to the Lions. And then with the Browns, we filled the need for the linebacker. We filled the need for offensive tackle. Now we have an edge, a safety, a guard, a cornerback, or a defensive lineman. We have wide receiver, tight end, and quarterback still, but we could still hold off here.
I think we definitely need to go more for depth on the offensive line. Probably a guard's position, maybe. Because as we all know, they got rid of Austin Corbett, who is, of course, now starting for the Los Angeles Rams. Because Freddie Kitchens doesn't know how to manage players and put a lot of people in the doghouse real quickly.
Most asinine head coach that I've ever seen. Man.
Remember when he sat Demarius Randall at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Remember when he did that one thing that made him look like a dumbass? Yeah, that's being called
every week?
Yes. Man. So as we look at the positions, looking at guards here, we have Solomon Kindley from Georgia, Kevin Dotson from Louisiana, or Nitane Muti? Another confusing name. So are we going with him at the guard spot, or?
Yeah. Where's he out of? Fresno State?
Yeah. Let's actually look at his size. Riggs, how big is he?
How big is that guy you just named off? First off, spell his fucking name.
I just wanted to know how big he was, if you knew it off the top of your head.
Oh, I don't even know what this guy even looks like.
6'3", 307 pounds, and he's a Hawaiian guy. So,
I remember Hawaiian guys playing in Cleveland. Sean Laval.
What about what's his name? Danny Shelton.
Danny Shelton.
Yeah,
what about that linebacker that we had too?
Monte Teo.
No. What was his name?
That was always the imaginary guy.
Maiva.
Yeah.
Oh, Kaluka Maeva or whatever.
Yeah, the linebacker with the fluffy hair. He was garbage.
But then he went to the Raiders, and then he actually played well.
Hey, I just got somebody on Facebook or Twitter just said the latest Trent Williams rumors: Redskins to move Trent and the 2 pick.
Ooh, maybe for the number 1.
I would think Miami.
Here's the thing.
So they can get Tua.
So here's the thing. This was also
Chase.
I've seen this, and
you said 2 pick. I thought you meant 2nd round pick. I don't know why I thought that.
The number 2 pick.
Ooh.
So there's been rumors too, along with the fact that the Dolphins are attempting to trade up to number 1, and with that number 1 pick, they're essentially not they don't care about Joe Burrow. I don't think. I think they just want their guy, and that's Tua, and they're trying to trade up, and they own 14 picks this draft. 6 picks in the top 70.
I truly don't understand why you don't take Joe Burrow. I've never seen a guy dominate the college football playoffs the way Joe Burrow dominated him last season.
So with Joe Burrow, then, if he ends up going to Miami,
we have 8 total touchdowns in the first round game. That's insane. It's like playing NCAA 2014.
I don't know.
That's the only game that's relevant.
If Cincinnati does that, they need to be an expansion team somewhere.
Yeah.
XFL.
Go to the XFL, bring in the top XFL team, put them in the NFL.
I mean, how do you drop the ball on that with Jake Burrow?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
The only way I see that's working, here's a scenario. You draft Chase Young there at 1, and you sign Cam Newton.
If you're
Didn't Jacksonville sign?
No.
No.
And then you trade Andy Dalton to New England for their first round 23rd pick. So now you got 2 other picks. That's the only way I see that working.
I heard a rumor about New England possibly shopping for Deshaun Watson in a deal.
Wow.
Man.
I saw a rumor. I don't know where it was from. I just saw it. But can you imagine Deshaun Watson
under Belichick?
Could you imagine Bill O'Brien losing 2 of the top 5 players within 2 months?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. After hearing what the type of person Bill O'Brien is, he sounds like a piece of shit. Just from the aspect of him saying that, who was it? DeAndre Hopkins that he ended up saying that he doesn't want another Aaron Hernandez type player because he kept on bringing his baby mama around. Yeah,
mamas, more than one, plural.
Whatever. Yeah. So I mean, I could see him being that stupid and doing that though, but with the fact of the number 1 pick, if you are the Dolphins, you almost have to go Joe Burrow. That would be the ideal thing. And if you're Cincinnati, you sound like you're stupid enough to actually do that.
Well, they are related to the Browns. They are our cousins, so
they're your brothers.
I don't consider him, but I consider him that distant cousin.
At least step brother. I mean, Paul
Right.
Brown left and got it. Yeah. So not the same, different mama.
Right, exactly. Yeah, same daddy,
different
mama.
city, different mama. We're step brothers, if anything.
You only see each
Or
other.
half brothers.
You only see each other for Easter and Christmas. Oh man, but yeah, like I could definitely see the Dolphins actually making that move and actually that coming through, because I think you could actually fleece them from the perspective of if you have 6 top 70 draft picks.
They got a lot of options there.
Yeah, I mean
trading.
you could literally give 3 of those 6 draft picks, get your quarterback 2 at 1. And I mean, Cincinnati, if they swap, let's see here. Oh shit. Let me just go back to the other draft. So if you end up being Cincinnati, you could end up just swapping 1 and 5. And you right now the Redskins don't really need a quarterback. They just have Dwayne Haskins. So why would you bother? I could see the Detroit Lions maybe jumping in there.
We talked about that.
Yeah, I could see them drafting quarterback.
So then you would trade Stafford and your pick?
I think if anything they have whoever, if the Lions do pick a guy, I think they have Stafford start the season and see what happens.
What if Stafford goes to the Patriots? I've heard that too.
I'll tell you what, Stafford isn't a bad quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's been in a bad situation since the day he was drafted. Megatron retired early on him. I mean, right when Stafford was supposed to be hitting his prime, his number 1 target retires only after, 8-9 years?
They're just looking at, the first 6 draft picks, it's very confusing because you have Joe Burrow, without a doubt, number 1. The Redskins, I don't think, will go for another quarterback after having Dwayne Haskins, so why would you do that when you could end up partnering him up with, on the defensive end, 2 college teammates, Chase Young on the defensive end.
And their wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking handshakes. I'm sorry.
Riggs, what was that?
No, I was watching this throwback finals game, and I remember when the Cavs used to have fucking handshakes before and after games, so I'm going to hit them handshakes.
Oh. Anyways, though, with the Detroit Lions, I could see them drafting a quarterback. I could see that being a possibility. The New York Giants won't. Then at 5 and 6, you have 2 other teams that could end up being quarterback hungry with the Chargers and the Dolphins. So if I'm the Bengals, if you end up trading them, I need the 5 because at 6, I know that there's another chance that even if I get Tua, that he could be gone if I end up. What? That Tua at 5, I mean, I don't think he's dropping any lower, especially with the fact that he was successful and then ended up falling down. But, I mean, I think that's it for this week's We Like Sportz podcast for this week. We'll definitely have to jump in more Browns next week, hopefully sometime in the near future. Hopefully the NFL news keeps on continuing on and rolling on. What are you guys thinking about next week? Do you want to go with that solution of maybe the simulated season for the Indians that I mentioned, in which you end up drafting how I was since 2007 and playing out the seasons and seeing how successful we are? Because we could go down that route, because we've been talking football. We could go down that route. We'll end up figuring that out for next week, but definitely stay tuned. Our replay of the We Like Sportz podcast will be on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, and Anchor at 9 a.m. Thursday morning. And also, we are going to be on our YouTube page as well, uploading the latest video at 9 a.m. on Thursday as well. Again, Riggs, read off one of those sponsors for us, and then we're going to head out.
Another good one, Always Green Landscaping. 330-487-0582 for all your landscaping needs. Call Sean, Twinsburg, Ohio, Chamberlain Road, 9412. And the phone number is 330-487-0582. And stay safe out here during this bullshit pandemic.
And as long as I'm Peyton and he's Riggs and Austin's Austin, I actually got that right because last week I fucked it up. We'll see you next week, and thanks again for tuning into the We Like Sportz podcast. Stay tuned. Wash your hands. Wash your ass. Austin, thanks for joining us once again.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll see you full time.
Yeah, I think you will. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. We'll see you next week, guys.
Later.